Autodesk University. I am so excited to be bringing you the Building Engineering Community Meetup. This is a meetup that we hold once a month. We've been doing it for a little over a year, and so it's not anything new for us to be virtual. I'm glad that you guys are all here and excited to have you. So if you come to our meetup on a regular basis, you probably know I'm going to ask you where you're coming in from, but this time I'm going to add a little bit spin on it. If you will, go ahead and open up the questions panel and type in where you're coming in from, as well as what has your favorite session been at Autodesk University this year. So go ahead and type that in the Q&A panel. I'll give some shout outs to everyone who types that in. Hopefully I can stay up to speed as quickly as you type it. All right, so Andrew says he is from Allentown, Pennsylvania, and he liked the first session. Great. Jeff is from Champions Gate, Florida. Radhams is in New York. Scott from Madison, Wisconsin. We've got Calgary, Calgary, Alberta. Which, sorry, I gotta get it in the right order here. All right, Tracy Reed, excellent to have you with us from Washington. I'm gonna slow my screen down so I can see it come in better. Chris from Brunswick, very nice to have you. Frederick from Quebec. Sebastian, also from Quebec. Great. So a few Quebecers here. All right. Nikita, first time here, and she's from Montreal. Great. Sandy from Maine, and she says, all getting so much. So that's exciting. I'm glad to see that you like all of the sessions you've been in so far. Great. Timothy from Pennsylvania. All right, what are we looking at on time? I see the numbers still rising, so I'm going to give everyone just another couple of minutes to get logged in, get their audio working, and be ready for a great presentation. We are running this a little bit different than usual. Usually I have one speaker who presents a how-to on a subject, and then we go into a Q&A. Today, we are going to have 4 different speakers. One of them is my coworker at a mentor. He's with our group network. He's going to talk to you a little bit about that and how you can get involved. And then we will have Chris and Alex, who are customers and users just like you, who are here to share their vast knowledge of the products that they are using. And so I'm excited to have them both on board, and I will introduce them a little bit more when we get going. So, all right, the numbers are still rising pretty quickly. So Mike is from Florida. Nice to have you with us, Mike. Chris from New Hampshire, he says he likes the general session the most. Excellent. Yeah, all of the keynotes on day 1 were phenomenal. I was really impressed. All right, William from Mississauga. Jeff from Columbia, very nice. I love to see the global audience come into these. Vance from Cornwall, Ontario. Oh, let's see. My screen has frozen. I can't move my scroll bar. Hold on. Oh, now it's responding now. Yay! I'm glad that didn't break. All right, Jason from Iowa. Bill from Oregon, excellent. I'm so glad to have all of you here. I think what I'll do, while we're waiting on everyone to finish getting logged in, just so I don't short any of my presenters on their time, I'm going to go ahead and jump in and get started on some orders of business that we need to go through. So I am Michelle Rasmussen. I am the AEC Content Manager here at Autodesk. What that means is I make sure you have the learning content you need to learn how to use the software efficiently to do your job efficiently. That way, you get done with your work at the end of the day, and you can spend time with family instead of, constantly putting in hour after hour of overtime. So if there's learning content you need, don't hesitate to reach out to me. All right, so let me just quickly run through our safe harbor statement. Actually, I'm not going to read this to you. I just want to make sure you know if there is any point at a time in this presentation that we make forward-looking statements, I don't want you to make purchasing decisions based on those. So only make purchasing decisions based on how the software is right now, the functions and features that are in it, because there's no guarantee if we say we're trying to get something in there, there's no guarantee it will end up in there. So just that little quick statement. All right. Your lines are muted. This is just to reduce the background noise because we are recording the session. And so everyone who registered for the session will receive a copy of that recording. It will be emailed out to you. And so we like to have a nice clean recording, but that doesn't mean you're off the hook. This is not just a show up and watch thing. We highly encourage questions. I do expect a very high volume of people to show up today, so I cannot promise we will get through every question, but we will do our best. Like I said, we will do a 5-minute presentation. Then we'll do a 5-minute Q&A on what you just saw, and then we'll do another 5-minute presentation, another 5-minute Q&A, and so forth. So please definitely put those questions in the Q&A panel, or my preference, if you are brave enough to have your voice heard online, go ahead and raise your hand in the participants panel, in the attendee panel, because then I can unmute your line and let you ask your question live. So with that, I am going to turn the time over to Adam Mentor, who is our community program manager for the Autodesk Group Network. So Adam, the time is yours.
Thanks, Michelle, for that great introduction, and also for hosting these meetings throughout the past year. It's very much in spirit of the Autodesk Group Network, which is the relatively new program that I'm here to share with you, which is just all about customers connecting with each other on their terms to raise their game. So the Group Network is a global network of user groups, developer groups, and online groups. So it does include both physical, local groups as well as virtual groups, where the intent is to enable folks to connect with each other to learn, build relationships, and share knowledge. The vision of actually, Michelle, I think we're going to run a quick poll at the beginning of this. Is that something we could do now? There we go. So are you interested in finding other meetups or other group communities to participate in? Enough of those come through, we will share those results out.
I see about 66% have voted, and I'll give you about 30 more seconds before I close that.
Yeah, feel free to close it even earlier if you'd like, Michelle.
Okay.
No
I'll let it get at least to 80%. We're at 73 now, so we're getting really close. 75. We give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'll share those results.
Okay, great. So 63% of folks are saying yes. And so let me tell you a little bit more about the group network, which might help you reach some of those intentions. So the Autodesk Group Network envisions a world where people are connecting in community to share knowledge and collaborate across firms and industries to improve the use of design technology and make a better world. Michelle, I think that there are a few slides that you could share if you want to that basically just reiterate some of what I'm saying verbally.
Are you seeing my slides?
I'm not seeing them on my side.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I had paused the slide deck and I'm sitting here going through and I'm like, oh.
Now I see the full, now I see the full notes situation going on there. So not the actual presentation, but the speaker notes is what I'm seeing.
Oh my goodness. Oh, thank you.
No
Okay,
worries.
how's that?
Pretty good. Actually, go back one because I want to show so there's a group finder and there's a little picture of that. So you can search and filter based on product and locations and languages and industry. So it is a global network. You can enter the types of stuff you're interested in, and then you'll see those results change both on that physical map as well as you can see there's a tab there between physical groups and online groups. So there's actually, you can see online groups that might interest you as well, which has of course been pretty important during COVID. So Michelle, you can go to the slide after this one. It's talked about the vision. And so how do we do that? Largely what we do is we support group leaders to try to help them get out of their experience of leading a group what their goals are. So that often looks like we're underpinning those communities with tools and resources to help people manage groups, to help people grow their communities, connect and collaborate with each other as leaders. A lot of times this is really about reaching personal and professional goals, and folks are really intrinsically motivated to adopt new and better ways of working. It's important to note that Autodesk is supporting without centrally controlling or owning these groups. We really just want to support community leaders that are already out there. So we welcome you to become a part of the group network. If you have an existing group, you can add it to the network. The links should be on the next slide there that Michelle can pull up. Join a virtual group, find a group near you, become a leader and start your own group if you're interested in that. And actually that might be a good time to launch the next poll, which is just kind of trying to gauge if there's any interest in folks on the line to take the step to become a group leader. We have tools and systems to support you if so.
Absolutely. And by the way, if you say yes to this, I will make sure that Adam and Rachel get your email so that they can reach out to you and let you know how they can support you in becoming a leader in one of these group networks.
Another thing to mention is that sometimes we're starting to think more about how we can support internal communities of practice within firms, so practice networks within companies.
Okay, I see 53%.
Okay, great. I don't want to take up any more of the time for this meetup, because I know you guys have really interesting stuff to talk about, but I hope that this program helps you all continue the types of conversations that you are having in forums like this. And I will drop some links to the group network, and we also have a website that has a lot of community building best practices and resources called the Community Dojo. I will post that in the chat as well. Thanks, Michelle. Back over to you.
You bet. You bet. All right. Let's see. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into what we're actually going to talk about. So like I said, I have a couple of presenters here. They're customers just like you, here to share their knowledge. The first one is Christopher Woodcock. I believe Chris, you go by Chris more often, but Chris is actually with EMA, Engineering and Consulting, and he is the production and BIM department leader. And so he has definitely had a lot of experience, doing some CAD pool training and training all of their incoming designers. And so he's here to talk a little bit about some of the things that he does. And then also after Chris is going to be Alexander Saul. So Alex, he is a PE who is an MEP consultant and mechanical engineer. He has over 14 years of experience in design and plumbing and fire protection systems. He's with consulting, BRA Consulting Engineers out of Miami, where he works on airports, laboratories, hospitals, educational, commercial, and residential. So, all right. And so let's let Chris have the floor. Chris, I'm going to go ahead and make you presenter. But Chris is going to talk to us a little bit about workflow for circuiting mechanical equipment through mechanical systems and families. And so give me 1 second. And are you able to share your screen yet there, Chris?
I believe so.
Perfect. Yes, I am seeing your slides. If you want to go into presenter mode for that.
This works fine. That way we don't waste any time.
All right.
Anyway, as stated, I am Chris Woodcock. I work for EMA, and we will be going over circuiting mechanical equipment through mechanical systems and families. What this workflow actually adds is a quality check for flow, quality check for the mechanical schedules, and honestly, peace of mind for electrical and circuiting. So they don't have to worry with mechanical engineers switching units on them as they appear quite noticeably on the floor plans. In order to achieve this, we will be using DM Electrical, the Family Edit feature, as well as the Revit systems. The few changes that we had to make was we created a thermostat, which is a mechanical equipment. That way we can take use of the room calculation point from the thermostat to feed any outside mechanical equipment like a rooftop unit. We will then use filters and systems to select specific items like mechanical equipment so that we can then adjust parameters. The DM Electrical Family Edit is the prep work so that way when we circuit for electrical, the correct information shows up on our panels. And then you can check the quality of said items with the schedules. All right, so here is a actual image of the thermostat that we created. Again, it has to be a mechanical equipment. In order to achieve this workflow, it will need to have an electrical connector, a duct connection, as well as the DM Electrical circuit edit, so that we can edit the descriptions that will show up on our electrical panels. This shows the DM Electrical Family Edit, in which case you will see that by default it would come in as a thermostat, but by using the software we can actually change it for the 3-ton, 4-ton, or 5-ton information that we're using in our design. Here's a standard layout for a mechanical unit. You'll see that we placed a thermostat. From there, we are actually adding it to the supply duct system. We will also edit the system name for those quality checks so that you can specify what the tonnage is and what room it feeds, and then it will read the CFM being fed off of that. Just one of those quality checks that we get. Oh, 2 down. Here's the electrical plans by use of the visibility graphics based off of detail level as well as with filters. The electrical floor plan will have these items show up on the left. Typically we don't show thermostats, but the whole reason for this is so that we can actually circuit the system again through the filter. So we will tab to select and connect the system, filter out to mechanical equipment, and then circuit. This will circuit both the thermostat and the mechanical equipment like RTU. After circuiting, it disappears from the electrical floor plan, so the only time they will see anything is if it's uncircuited or newly added. Here's an image showing the panel schedule. On the left, you will see the default Revit. However, with the DM Electrical and the circuit override, once you run calculations for the whole project, you'll see that it actually brings in the circuit description and changes the amperage and wire size for said device. Here's a little quote I like to leave you guys with, as well as for Autodesk. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. And that here are the stages and phases for it. So first we had to create the families in order to adjust the information using these schedules and filters, calculate the electrical information, and then we can check all information with the quality check schedules using both the systems and the parameters that we had previously adjusted. And that's it for me. We have time for questions.
Yes, we do. So if you will, go ahead and type your questions into the Q&A panel. Okay, let's see. What is the DM Electrical family? This is coming from Jason.
Okay, DM Electrical is a third-party software that can create AutoCAD risers from a Revit design, as well as adjust the default Revit information to make circuiting possible in terms of correct information without the use of additional macros or anything. So DM Electrical gives the electrical engineer a lot more power using Revit itself. So you can actually prep work and build your families beforehand and then all you would have to hit is a calculate button. I actually have a video on this posted to YouTube, actually.
Great. All right, and Andrea is asking the question, why are you circuiting the thermostat instead of the actual equipment?
So the reason why we created the thermostat was so that it would have the family calculation or the room calculation point. The thermostat actually has no electrical information, but the reason why we're circuiting the thermostat is it's really difficult to see a rooftop unit from an electrical floor plan. So we needed something on the floor plan in order to see it right away. So by the use of connecting it to the supply system, we can actually tab on that device to connect it to the RTU unit. And then with the use of filters, we will filter out anything that is not mechanical equipment so that when we power said device, it powers both the RTU or mechanical equipment as well as the thermostat. And because the thermostat has no actual power to it, it doesn't add anything to the load.
All right, great. All right, Ricky is asking the question, does the electrical and mechanical systems have to be in the same model?
Yes. Otherwise, you can't circuit anything through a link. You can, however, use copy and monitor to bring it in, but then that defeats the purpose of why don't you just use the same model anyway?
Yeah, okay. Ron is asking the question, did you get past the issue with load duplicating? Does the DM electrical software assist with this?
Yes. So with the load, essentially, if it has the same name, which is why we would use the DM circuit edit, it crushes the information down. So if the electrical or if the mechanical engineer rather made a mistake and tried to circuit a 3-ton thermostat with a 5-ton unit, the information would be different and would show up on the panel boards differently. That's a cute quality service check that is pre-built in.
Okay. And I apologize if I say this name wrong. I believe it's pronounced Sete, maybe. He says, hi, any issues with coarse view versus fine view within the family display for electrical and mechanical plans?
We used visibility graphics in order to fully edit on the electrical plans that mechanical equipment will stay as coarse. So through visibility graphics all the way on the right, you can adjust this. That way, no matter what your entire view is, coarse or fine or medium, the mechanical equipment will stay as coarse. The mechanical engineers, however, will work on either medium or fine because their ductwork will show appropriately then. So they never run into the issue.
Okay, excellent. And Arthur is asking the question, how do you use Dynamo for optimization in your work?
Currently, we don't. Dynamo is fascinating. There is a lot of really good software out there, but I work at a MEP firm here in Tyler, Texas. And honestly, the major use I see for Dynamo is with structural and architectural possibilities. I have been a part of the Built community as well as the Autodesk community, and I haven't seen any solutions for MEP that I'm fully ready to vest in.
And Joelle makes a statement, they're saying the beta version of DM Electric now creates risers in a Revit drafting view. Thank you, Joelle, for that comment.
Yes, and you can create one that way through the use of software, as well as there's actually some interesting studies showing that you can do it through the use of design options and 3D models themselves.
Okay. And a few of you have been asking the question, is this being recorded? Absolutely, this is being recorded, and everyone who registered will receive an email with the link to the recording after the session is over. So yeah, great questions. Tyler is asking, is the process reliant on accurate electrical loads being loaded in the mechanical families?
Yes. So I built these families myself. So The cool thing with the Autodesk or Revit is if the family has the same name, it will override parameters. So if the information or the supplier changes, as long as you do not adjust the name of the family, you can reload it in and it'll override. Then you hit calculate and it does all the work. Before I run out of time, I do want to mention that there is a presentation on this going step by step, just showing that it is possible and it's not just me talking about it, that you can find on YouTube if you search. You have the right one when it shows EMA.
Okay, Chris, for some reason you broke up when you said you can search and then it broke up. So can you repeat what you said to search for?
Yes, you can search this description, which will be circuiting mechanical equipment, and you'll know you have the right page when you find EMA.
Perfect. Okay, excellent. Well, your time is up. So thank you so much for that great presentation. And thank you everyone for your awesome questions. I am going to ask Chris one last question because Ron is asking, it looks like we need to look into DM Electric. Can you post a link to DM Electric? And so, Chris, I've given you rights to go in and answer that question. If you can post a link to that and then hit send all to all, that would be very helpful. And if you have trouble, send me a chat and I'll try to help you with that. All right, Chris,
okay.
or sorry, Alex, you are now up. So I am making you presenter at the moment. Let me know if you are not able to share your slides. I see them. Let's go ahead and go down and I'm sorry. Alex is going to be talking about multiple restroom piping. So go ahead and skip this one here. And, okay, perfect. So Alex, the floor is yours, and make sure you unmute yourself because I'm not hearing you quite yet.
All right, hi everyone. Hope everyone can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Perfect.
So we're gonna talk about multiple restrooms again. You know, typically plumbing and fire protection, we're last in line. So hopefully you'll find this helpful. So one good piece of advice is make sure you have all your pipe types previously set up. So you have all your routing preferences like cast iron, PVC, threaded, flange, etc. Then make sure you set up your families. Some people like to actually use plumbing fixtures with intelligent connectors. Some like to just use the connectors only. You know, everything has benefits on its own. Make sure you set up your carriers as well. You can find from different manufacturers, you know, Zern, J.R. Smith, Josam, all those have. So you want to test them out first before getting into this and set up your views. You know, typically I use a plan view, a section view, and a 3D view. And I take my 3D view to the other monitor, just like a, you know, real-time monitor of what's going on. And always have a couple of different ways of doing things because, you know, that's what Revit offers. It offers different ways of doing things. And try not to be stubborn because that's not going to be working to your advantage. So I prepared a quick video here that is going to show a little bit of a workflow. Right now I'm just setting up a lavatory out of the box. It's a pretty simple multiple restroom that I'm doing. I'm hosting it to the wall and I'm aligning it to the architectural background. Then I make sure on my section view that I can take my tailpiece out of it. One thing that I did is I set up my P-trap. I changed it from a multi-port to an elbow, and that helps me just draw an elbow here. And then later on, I just change it to a P-trap via the properties palette. So I have my vent stack here. I resize it to the size that I want. And one thing that I find useful is the trim extend command. So it automatically sets up, it introduces a sanitary T or a fixture T, depending on your routing preferences. And then I can copy that down and do a little takeoff for my clean out on the wall. and then I cap all. So I'm capping the open end with a clean out, a plug. And then one thing I find very useful is to just copy my pipe up and then change from sanitary drainage. In this case, I'm changing to the vent routing preference, and then I change my system to vent, and it saves me a little bit of time. And then I have to change that elbow to a P-trap. I cut it out of the video to be a little bit faster. Another thing I want to share is I typically draw a line down the middle of a chase. It helps me align things. It's a little bit rudimentary, but it works and it's really fast. So now I'm aligning my carrier. I'm doing a back-to-back here. I rotate it first to make sure I have it on the right orientation. And then I take a wall-mounted toilet. And I don't like hosting things to walls too much. Sometimes I just take them out and disjoint so that when the architect makes changes, things don't get out of whack. But I'm aligning my carrier here, and now I'm aligning my carrier to my toilet, and now I'm aligning my toilet to the architect's toilet on the plan view, and now I'm doing that on the section view. So one thing that I find helpful is take my sanitary drain out first, and then align it to the inlet of my carrier. And then once I connect it and I see my carrier changing colors, I know it's perfectly connected. I sometimes mirror that. Depending, you need to be careful of which type of fixture you're mirroring, because if you're doing a lavatory that has cold and hot water, you probably don't want to do that. And then I try to copy as much as I can to save some time. And then I connect my two carriers. And one thing that I find very beneficial is that, typically we all know how challenging slope pipes can become, and you want to save some time where you don't really need it. So in a dedicated bathroom chase, you typically don't need to slope that pipe. It's going to save you a lot of headaches, because that's your chase typically. So, and it's short runs, so the drop in invert is not really that much. But you can definitely do this using slope pipes too. It's just going to take a little bit longer. So right there, I'm using my trim extend command to connect. On the vertical, you should use a combination T, a combination Y elbow there instead of a sanitary T, but I didn't have time to put it on the video. So any questions? I don't know. Hopefully I didn't run out of time. Hello?
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions that came in, so I'm excited. Great presentation, by the way, Alex, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Andrew asked the question, did you connect waste and vent piping or align? I've had experience that when connecting it, if you try to select the whole system by tabbing, you will also get the vent piping.
That is correct. Yes, I did connect. I like connecting them because that way when I move my vent stack, the vent line moves with it. But yeah, sometimes, you have to see what your preference is. There are many ways to skin a cat here. One challenge that you may find is that I like to use the system monitor to check my drainage fixture units. And sometimes venting can become a little bit problematic if you have it set up from the beginning as a venting system. Some people like to have that instead of having a venting system, they duplicate the sanitary drain system, and that way drain fixture units flow through it. But it's a matter of preference. But yes, I did connect to the vent stack, and when you do the tab select, you're selecting the whole system. But you can break the system, and we can probably do that some other time, another video on that. And you can separate the systems. First, you have to separate it logically, and then whatever you separated logically can be separated. You separate them physically first, and then you have to separate them logically.
Okay, great. And Dustin is asking the question, where did you get those carrier families?
These carriers in particular are from Zern, but again, you can use J.R. Smith or Joseon. You need to test them out. I like these Zern ones because they transfer the fixture units pretty neatly, but I had to do some adjustments because you have a vent port, and the venting is what messes things up. But carriers on its own would be a whole separate presentation, but this one is in particularly from CERN. You can find them on their website, or you can go also to BIM Object and you'll find them there.
Okay. And Joey asked the question, what type of cast, PVC, or out of the box did you use when modeling?
Yeah, this one in particular, I try to keep it as out of the box Revit tools. So I use the PVC for drainage and waste. And that's out of the box. The only thing that I modified was the P-trap, which I changed from multi-port to an elbow, because it makes it easier on me. You know, I just do the turn on the pipe, and it introduces the elbow, and then I just select the elbow and change to P-trap.
Okay.
So that's a drain, waste, and vent, which is a DWV option that Revit has out of the box.
Okay, great. So I think this is probably the last question we'll get to because we're almost out of time. David is saying, in some cases, we have to slope the pipe for long runs. Any suggestions when this is the case?
Yeah, well, it's a different animal, but my biggest suggestion would be make sure you slope first. You have your main sloped. And there's a nice presentation on that too from Autodesk University. There are a couple of them that are really good, but my suggestion would be you slope the main line first down at 1/8 of an inch or whatever your pipe size requires, and then to your fixtures. And I know this is pretty rudimentary, but I'm trying to convey the idea quickly. This one's, you make sure you inherit elevation of this pipe so that it connects properly, and then you slope up, and that way your life's going to be a little bit easier.
Great, excellent. All right. Well, when we initially asked for customers to present at these meetups back in April and May, we asked everyone to submit their topics. And Alex submitted more than one, and then you guys voted on them in July, and 2 of his got selected. So Alex is up again. He's going to be talking next on piping tips and tricks. So it sounds like we have a few piping specialists in here, so it's perfect.
Okay, so we're doing this right away. Let me just open it up. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we're still seeing your screen.
Okay, perfect. So let me just
I'm going to jump right to slide 4.
So I'm going to start with fire sprinklers because, you know, it's a pretty black sheep of it. I'm going to talk about sprinkler branches. This is all using out-of-the-box Revit tools content. But again, you have third-party plugins all over the place. I just wanted to keep it especially for out-of-the-box Revit. So in this case, we're connecting 3 sprinklers together. So I'm going to run a quick video here that I prepared. I did here create similar. So I started with a 1-inch branch line. That's the end of my branch line. I like to start that way. It's a matter of preference because I can start sizing my pipe as I start connecting to other sprinklers. So I'm connecting my second sprinkler here. You need to make sure you have your routing preferences set up in advance. I'm upgrading to a T, and now notice that I just keep drawing a 1-inch line all over, and I do this intentionally because I like to have my piping done first in case I need to submit in a rush, and then I do the hydraulic calculations later, and I find out what my pipe sizes really should be. So If you want to start with something, you notice that I select this pipe and I change it to 1 1/4 inch, and it automatically put the threaded reducing T. Now I'm selecting the T and the other piece of the branch, and I'm changing it to 1 1/2, and it automatically introduces again the reducing T there. That's a nice little tip, at least for me, it has worked very well. Another good tip that I could share would be whenever you have T branching and you have mechanical outlets, like from Victaulic or Grinnell, they take a lot of space. So if I don't have too much space here, I'd rather have tap branching, and that can be done with out-of-the-box Revit content as well. You have to set it up on your routing preferences. And then what I do is, and I'm going to just play here this quick video. I have two. You see this one here is the T branches, right? That's the pipe type that I'm using. So I'm putting on the correct elevation and I'm snapping to that main. It automatically introduces the groove T, but it takes a lot of space. So if I wanted to have two taps from there, I wouldn't have space with that. So instead of that, I use a different routing preference, which is I'm setting up the elevation, and now I'm changing it to the tap branches, which by default have the connection to the main as a welded outlet. And that way, I gain a little bit more space, you see? Like I can connect two of them easily, maybe three in the same space. Another good tip is to use the commands hide isolate and hide restore. This you can use to isolate one or a few items and then bring back. In this case, for example, I just select this few items, and then I'm using the hide isolate. I modify whatever I have to modify, right? Let's suppose that's what I want to do. And then you just do the hide restore to bring it back. And then there's also, you can hide to get things out of the way and then bring it back. For example, in this case, I want to hide this vent stack here to have access to the pipe behind it. So I use the hide command, and then I do whatever I have to do. And then once I'm done, I just do the hide restore to bring back. And that's it. So hopefully I didn't go out of my time. Any questions?
Yes, you do have some questions, and you are actually just perfect on time. So great job. All right. Barbara is saying, are there going to be any presentation geared towards architects and structural engineers? So Barbara, we had our architect meetup actually the other day on Tuesday, and I can I'll point you to the link where you can go and see that recording, since it sounds like you missed that. So Michael asked the question. I have to point out that the fitting that he just used, the reducing T, is not allowed by code. Oh, so the code will vary from place to place, and since this is a global conference, we do recognize, sometimes those fittings may change code-wise. So, Michael, sorry, Alex, do you have any suggestions on how to make sure things are at code, or any comments on that question Michael said?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think there was a lot of echo there, but I think that the question was that sometimes reducing fittings are not allowed. The one that I was making reference to here is a threaded reducing T for fire protection. Here in Florida, in 14 years, we've never had a problem with them. But you can always do just what you would do in that case is simply keep going with the pipe size that you want. Let's say this is your sprinkler. You came out this way. You connect to this guy, and then you come out at 1 inch, and then you have your increaser to 1 1/4, and then you keep going at 1 1/4. But I would say 100% of what I've seen here in South Florida, at least, is threaded reducing tees, because that's just one tee one fitting instead of two fittings. So it's definitely way more cost efficient. But yeah, that wouldn't be a difference in the workflow. It's just a matter of introducing a piece of pipe and then the increaser. Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, and William asked the question, do you use Revit for the sprinkler hydraulic calculations, or do you use a third party?
We're debating a couple of things, but typically we use a software from HydraCalc. It's from Hydratech. It's called HydraCalc. It's a very good software, but we don't have it linked directly to Revit. There's some other softwares as well, like Autospring, but they all have their own challenges. So we currently don't have it, the interconnectivity, because in the real MEP world, it can become a little challenging with the pressure reducing valves out of the standpipes, and the backflow preventers, different type of valves from different manufacturers. So just by having one little piece of the puzzle that it doesn't comply with what the software wants to receive, the hydraulic calculation software, everything, all your time was wasted. So no, we typically do it using a third party software, and it's called HydraCalc from Hydratech.
Okay, excellent. And P.V. Hill actually asked the question, where did you get that Weld fitting?
That Weld outlet is actually an out-of-the-box fitting. I don't know if I would have time to show you where it is. Unfortunately, I'm logged me in to the office's computer, and we have a server there. But if you go to your Revit family, to your content folder under pipe fittings, you will find it. It's called, I believe, welded outlet. And it's a little bit tricky to set up, but we can probably do another presentation some other time on how to do it. But that's an out-of-the-box fitting.
Okay, great. And Brian's giving you a big kudos. He says, I loved that HI, the hide isolate command. He wasn't aware of that. So awesome.
Good.
I love when
I'm glad you found it helpful.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just glad he found it helpful. I did too.
Great. Michael is asking, with the IPC, you have to use a standard T with a reducer. Okay, so more of a comment than a question, but excellent. Thank you, Michael, for that.
Right. That's for, this is very important to point out, that's for plumbing, right? Okay. But in either way, you can definitely do the split on the pipe and do the increaser. So thanks for that point.
Okay, Anthony asks, can you show us where the hide command is?
I typically just use the shortcut is HI, the keystroke. But right now I don't have Revit open, but it's I just use the shortcut. The keystroke is HI to hide, and HR would be hide restore.
Okay. Excellent.
But that definitely has to be on the modified tab. I can probably find it if there's any other questions in the meantime.
Okay. While you're looking for that to show that, I see Crystal has her hand raised in the attendee panel. So Crystal, I'm unmuting your line. It looks like you are self-muted. Can you unmute?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. What's your question?
So I'm a MEP BIM manager at my company, and we just started doing Revit within the last year or so. So my question is, like, I've been making families with plumbing fixtures, fittings. Would you recommend that, like, the checkbox for always allows slope to always be checked on any plumbing fittings or plumbing fixtures?
I wouldn't, because See, the problem with that is like I tried to mention that before. Most of the times you'll have small runs, and that's not really too important to have them slope. And it can become very annoying because those fittings are very stubborn once you set them up like that. Typically, what I do is I have my main sloped. See, like if you click on this pipe, for example, that would be sloped at 1/8 of an inch, but not by default.
Great, thank you, Crystal.
Does that answer the question?
Crystal, does that answer it?
Oh yeah, that's what I was just kind of wondering because like I've been having situations where like a architecture would move a sink and then it will end up Revit keeps fighting with the fittings moving, and then it won't just open the model because it's like, oh, you don't have control over this, and it's usually because like a sink moved and it's trying to calculate the angle of the connector.
Yeah, I feel your pain. Typically, what I do to get out of that, I found it very helpful. I do this move, right? And then I make sure I take the constraint out and I click this join, and then I move it out, say 0.1 inch. And that way, this is not hosted to the wall anymore. So maybe you find that helpful.
So even with copy monitored like plumbing fixtures?
Some people may disagree, but I'm not a big fan of a copy monitor. I like to monitor, by visual inspection because it's enough to have just one fixture on the architect side to be out of whack for you to miss it. But it might be a matter of trying it out and see if it works for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Crystal. All right, I see Aaron. Aaron W., your line is now unmuted since you had your hand raised.
Excellent. I just wanted to answer a couple of questions that had been brought up. One of those was, where is the hide command? If you're looking at Alex's screen right here, down on the bottom left corner of his working screen, you have your 1/4 inch, you have your checkerboard. If you move over to the right just a little bit, you'll see a set of sunglasses. The sunglasses is your temporary hide, and the one right next to it is your hide. That allows you to reveal your hide and your hidden elements. And then you can also select an element, right click, and choose to hide it from that menu right there.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Yeah, typically what I do is either the keystroke that's very good. Thank you very much. You would go here to temporary hide, or you can also go here, hide in view. And if you hide the element itself, you're just hiding that pipe. If you're hiding the category, you're hiding all those similar pipes. Thanks a lot, Aaron. That's, typically when you have the workflow and you do things the same way over and over for years, you forget where other things are.
But don't forget that your hide and your temporary hide are two different elements. If you go select those sunglasses down there in the bottom left corner, you'll see that you have a different set of commands on those sunglasses.
Right.
Excellent. Thank you, Aaron, for raising your hand and jumping in there. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. We've got Brian asking the question, HH can be used to temp hide selected items. HR, again, using to restore visibility elements. So thank you, Brian, for that clarification. Craig says, I believe those keyboard commands for hide and unhide are custom from the keyboard shortcuts. They do not appear to be default in my version of Revit. Okay,
yeah,
so
what you can do, you go KS, and then here you set it up to whatever you want. So do here, for example, hide, right? Hide in view, see? So you can customize to whatever you want. So typically I can do QQ or WW, things that I do faster because, you know, since you're doing that 2,000 times a day. But yeah, you can customize it by doing KS, and then you assign whatever you want for that.
Excellent. Okay, and Craig is also saying, giving a little tip here, the copy monitor has coordination review to see when monitored elements get moved or deleted. So that is a great tip. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, that's correct. You get a full list of all the elements that change. Sometimes Revit is like, well, you know, this change, you want me to delete it? And then you don't really know, no, not really delete it, but can we fix it? But yeah, I mean, it's a matter of preference. I think over time, definitely it has improved a lot. I think from 2019, 2020, and even it's getting way friendlier. So yeah, if that works for you, that's fantastic.
Okay. Ron is asking the question, do you have any workaround for Revit's continued lack of showing single and two-line pipe in the same view without using line work or placeholders?
Yeah, what I typically what I do is just have two different views. If I need to have a double line and a single line, and then you know, I would change my level of detail here. Because otherwise you have to customize it based on size. You know, some people like, for example, the sprinkler plant. They like to have the main as a two line, and then the sprinkler branches just as a single line. But in my case, typically we just do the single line to keep the plants as clean as possible. To change this to medium level of detail, and it will show like that. And if you want to have like an enlarge with a more double line detail, I would do a copy from here and then display both views on the same sheet if you want to do a call out immediately.
Okay, great. I really like this next tip that Michael is sharing. He says, I've had good success with architecture deleting their fixture after schematic design and only having the fixture in the plumbing Revit file. Architectural staff would need to talk to the plumber, BIM coordinator if they want to move. The copy monitor is too long of a list when doing coordination review. So thank you, Michael, for that great tip.
Yeah, Michael, I definitely agree with you that the list can become overwhelming. You know, it's a matter of how friendly your relationship is with the architect, and you know, if you can set it up that way, that would be great.
All right. And Sarah, I see that you have your hand raised. Because of time, I think this might be the last question we'll be able to get to. Oh, I see you unraised your hand. Okay, no problem. Okay, so Andrea makes the comment, the copy monitor tends to get overloaded with all the plumbing fixtures connected. So kind of repeating the same thing we've been hearing. And Ron says, thanks, I have thought of that too. So excellent. Well, those are all of the questions that I see on this presentation that have come in. So thank you, Chris and Alex, both for the wonderful presentations. I appreciate the preparation that you've put into this and all the time that you put into it. So thank you, thank you. And I want to thank everyone for attending as well. I know that your time is very valuable. I hope that you found this just as valuable as your time and a good way to spend your time. So thank you very much for joining us. And we hope to see you next month at our next Building Engineering Community Meetup. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Michelle. Bye, everyone.